Hey everyone, in this lesson we're going to talk about the idea of planting a naysayer in your text. Now this is something that may sound a little counterintuitive. If I'm trying to make an argument, why would I want to bring up the point of view of somebody who disagrees with me? Can't that actually weaken what I'm trying to say by showing somebody out there who has a different point of view? Well, if done incorrectly, yes, but if done correctly, it can actually strengthen your argument, and we're going to talk about why. First of all, introducing naysayers is a good way for you to anticipate and respond to objections that might come up. So when somebody's reading your paper, who knows what's going through their head? They might just be agreeing with what you say, or they might be having all these problems with it as they're reading. You should try and anticipate problems that might come up. If you can anticipate these objections and respond to them before the actual reader gets a chance to complain or decide he disagrees with you, then you can address the worries that he may have and offer your own point of view on those issues rather than letting him form his own opinions and objections to the claims that you're trying to make. So say, for example, you were arguing with your mom over how late your curfew should be. And I know that you're all in college now, so maybe this is irrelevant, but you remember what it was like to be in high school, and you probably argued over this. So say you're going to be arguing that you want your curfew to be 2 o'clock. Your mom wants you to be home at midnight. My parents actually gave me an 11 o'clock curfew when I was 18, which I thought was completely ridiculous. I threatened to move out over it, but eventually they lifted it to 12, which was still pretty ridiculous, but not quite as bad. Anyway, that's beside the point. You're arguing that you want a 2 o'clock curfew. You know what is going to be going through your mom's head. She's probably going to say something like, "It's so dangerous out there on the roads that late. I don't want you driving after midnight." Well, if you anticipate that objection, you could do a little bit of research. And you could come and say, "You know, Mom, I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking that the roads are too dangerous after midnight and that I shouldn't be on the road. But the fact of the matter is that the reason that the roads are more dangerous after midnight is because so many people die in drunk driving accidents. I'm not going to be drinking. I'm not going to be driving on roads that are frequented by drunk drivers. There's no reason that it should be any more dangerous for me to drive at 1 in the morning than it is at 11 in the morning." So whether all that's true or not, I don't know. I just made it up off the top of my head. But the point is, you knew that your mom was going to object in this way. So before she got a chance to even bring up that objection, you went ahead and addressed it. It's a really good way to address these objections, to bring this naysayer into the text. Some people may disagree, but here's why they're wrong. Second reason to bring naysayers into the text is to avoid misrepresentation. You want to make sure that you're being fair to other people, and you don't want people to think that you're misrepresenting others' points of view. So I've talked a lot about Trump and his different policies and proposals and stuff in some of our previous videos. I could say something like, "Now, I know that there are probably Trump supporters out there who are thinking, this is just another liberal professor arguing against Trump." Well, it may look that way, but here's the reality. And then if I explained why I was actually basing my points of view in logic or in research that I've done as opposed to basing it on political bias, I would be addressing the objections, addressing the naysayers, and making it clear that I'm not misrepresenting Trump's policies or his points of view. I'm just stating them based on the research that I've done. So by saying something like, "I know you may think I'm misrepresenting this person, but here's why." Or "You may think I'm not being fair about this view, but here's why I am." Again, it shoots down these people who might disagree with you before it gets a chance to weaken your paper. So this is the key. You want to make sure you shoot down that opposition. If there's a naysayer out there who's going to weaken your argument, who's going to make your claims seem invalid, anticipate them and integrate them into your paper and prove why their point of view is actually the one that's wrong. That's essentially what you're going to be doing in your I Say paper. They're making an argument that is on the opposite side of where you stand. You are responding by bringing up their argument and showing why it's wrong. Now, make sure when you bring up these objections that you bring them up fairly. This is like the believing game from when we were talking about summary and paraphrasing. Don't, be unfair and say, "Oh, there's a bunch of idiots out there who think that Trump's doing a great job." Well, if I say that it's idiots who think Trump's doing a great job, I'm going to alienate all Trump voters, which is half the people in America. That's not fair. It would be more fair for me to say something like, "Now, a lot of Trump supporters are happy with the policies that he's put in place and would disagree with me when I say that his wall is not a good idea. That is a fair objection. So be fair to people when you bring up these naysayers. And second of all, make sure that you address the objections. Don't bring up an objection and fail to respond to it. That's a surefire way to actually weaken your paper. So make sure that when you bring an objection into your paper, you respond to that objection. First secret word of the day is koala. If you can keep all these things in mind, not only is your paper going to be stronger, you'll make sure that nobody out there is reading and coming up with doubts and coming up with problems before they actually get a chance to finish the paper. It's going to make for a really strong essay in the end.